Winterfell remembers, but do you? We're covering every member of House Stark, the house whose story is older than the Iron Throne itself. Here we go. Bran the Builder. Also called Bran, the Builder is said to be House Stark's founder. He was a legendary king of winter who both constructed Winterfell and made it his seat. According to the histories recorded by the Maesters and preserved in texts like The World of Ice and Fire, he is credited with raising the wall after the Long Night with the aid of giants and the magic of the Children of the Forest. He is also credited with establishing the Night's Watch to guard the realms of men south of the Wall. Though scholars suspect these feats were exaggerated or achieved by several people over time, the legacy of Bran the Builder looms large. Brandon's gift, a vast stretch of land south of the Wall that was granted to the Night's Watch, is traditionally attributed to Bran the Builder, though some argue it was another Brandon. This gift also secured the Stark's dominion over the north by ensuring the wall remained well defended. Generations later came the rule of Brandon the Breaker, another king of winter who joined forces with the king beyond the wall Joramun to overthrow the legendary Night's King. This was the rogue 13th Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, who took a corpse queen and enslaved the Watch. According to old tales, the Breaker marched north with a massive army, besieged the Night Fort where the Night's King ruled, and after a brutal campaign, ended the Night's King's 13-year reign of terror. Brandon not only freed the Night's Watch from this dark tyrant, but also ordered that the Night's King's name be erased from all records, and even from memory, a practice called damnatio memoriae, restoring honor to the Watch and ensuring this corruption could never be glorified. Theon Stark. Known as the Hungry Wolf, King Theon led the North during the era of Andal invasions, a time of constant war. He defeated the Andal warlord Argos Sevenstar at the Battle of the Weeping Water. However, not content with defending his land, Theon then carried the fight across the narrow sea. He sailed with Argos's corpse as a figurehead and burned Andal villages in revenge. He mounted the heads of his enemies along the northern coast as a grim warning to future invaders. The Hungry Wolf's ceaseless campaign solidified Winterfell's rule and earned him a fearsome reputation. The era of independent northern kings ended with Torrhen Stark. Known to history as the King Who Knelt, Torrhen was ruler of the north when Aegon the Conqueror unleashed his dragons on Westeros. After Aegon's forces incinerated the southern armies on the Field of Fire, Torrhen marched down with 30,000 Northmen, determined to face the Targaryen invader. He camped on the banks of the Trident and beheld Aegon's army of 45,000 and his 3 dragons. The Stark scouts had seen the charred ruins of Harrenhal and heard how Aegon burned armies alive. In the end, Torrhen Stark chose prudence over pride. He sent Jon Snow as an envoy to make a treaty with Aegon, and by dawn, Torrhen crossed the Trident and bent the knee, laying his ancient crown at Aegon's feet. This submission spared the North from Dragonfire and earned Torrhen the title Lord of Winterfell and Warden of the North, but forever branded him as the King Who Knelt. If you're enjoying this deep dive into Stark history, make sure you're subscribed. We've got plenty more Game of Thrones content coming your way. Cregan Stark. Lord Cregan was one of the most formidable Starks. Known as the Wolf of the North, Cregan inherited Winterfell as a teenager in 121 AC and quickly proved a stern, decisive lord. When the Dance of the Dragons broke out in 129 AC, a war of succession between Queen Rhaenyra Targaryen, the Blacks, and King Aegon II, the Greens, both sides sought the North's support. Prince Jacaerys Valerian flew to Winterfell and negotiated with Cregan, who committed the North to Rhaenyra's cause. Together they forged the Pact of Ice and Fire, Stark swords for the Blacks, sealed by a future marriage between their houses. However, by the time Cregan and his army finally reached King's Landing in 131 AC, the dance was effectively over. Rhaenyra was dead, Aegon II had been poisoned, and the Iron Throne now belonged to her broken but rightful heir, Aegon Targaryen III, a boy king surrounded by traitors and regents. Lord Stark entered the capital with the largest army left standing, and ruled for 6 days in what became known as the Hour of the Wolf. Acting as hand in all but name, Cregan dispensed swift Stark justice upon those responsible for Rhaenyra's fall. With honor satisfied and the new young king secure, he refused all offers to remain at court, instead returning north to Winterfell with his new wife, Lady Alysanne Blackwood, and ruled for decades more, earning a lasting reputation as one of the North's greatest lords. Cregan Stark died in 157 AC at roughly 57 years of age. Lord Rickard Stark was the head of House Stark at the end of the Targaryen era, a proud leader with Southron ambitions. Born around 233 AC, he inherited Winterfell as Warden of the North. He married his cousin Lady Lyanna Stark to keep the bloodline pure, and together they had 4 children: Brandon, Eddard, Lyanna, and Benjen. Tall and stern, Rickard desired to elevate his house's power through strategic alliances. Rickard arranged strategic betrothals. His eldest son Brandon would wed Catelyn Tully of Riverrun, binding the Starks to the Riverlands, and his daughter Lyanna would wed Robert Baratheon of Storm's End, binding the North to the Stormlands. The plan was sound, until it unraveled in tragedy. In 282 AC, on the eve of Brandon's wedding, news reached the Starks that Prince Rhaegar Targaryen had abducted Lyanna. Brandon galloped straight to King's Landing. Accompanied by friends, Brandon rode into the Red Keep and rashly shouted for Rhaegar to come out and die. Rhaegar wasn't even there, and the Mad King Aerys seized upon the young lord's outburst. Aerys arrested Brandon and his companions on charges of treason and summoned their fathers to answer for them at court. Rickard dutifully came to King's Landing, seeking justice and the release of his heir. What awaited was a nightmare. Aerys, sliding into lunacy, accused Rickard of plotting against the crown. When Rickard demanded the right of trial by combat to prove his innocence, the Mad King accepted, naming Fire as the crown's champion. Before the court, Aerys had Rickard suspended from the rafters of the throne room in his armor. Rickard slowly roasted alive inside the armor. Brandon was brought out with a Taroshi strangling device around his neck and a sword just out of reach. If you want to see how this tragedy sparked Robert's rebellion and changed Westeros forever, make sure you're subscribed. We've got plenty more Game of Thrones deep dives coming. Brandon Stark. Brandon was the fiery heir of Rickard Stark. Born in 262 AC, Brandon was charismatic and handsome. He was often called the Wild Wolf for his impetuous nature. Brandon's boldness showed at the great tourney at Harrenhal in 281 AC. When his sister Lyanna was crowned Queen of Love and Beauty by Rhaegar Targaryen, Brandon took it as an insult to Lyanna's honor. The Wild Wolf nearly started a brawl with Rhaegar that very night, but he lived to fight another day. Brandon ultimately died strangling himself on a leather cord in a futile attempt to save his father from a fiery death. The Mad King forced Brandon to watch his father's horrific execution. Brandon desperately tried to scramble for the sword to cut his father free, but the more he struggled, the tighter the noose pulled. In a scene of unimaginable cruelty, Brandon strangled himself while reaching for the sword, at the very moment Lord Rickard was burned to death. Together, father and son died witnessing each other's agony. He was only 20 years old when he perished, honorable and reckless to the bitter end, and the Wild Wolf spirit lived on in the family, not least in his sister, Lyanna Stark, the only daughter of Rickard Stark, known as the She-Wolf. Born around 266 AC, Lyanna was as wild and willful as any Stark son, with the same wolf blood in her veins. She was an accomplished rider, often racing her horse through the Wolfswood. She had the long face, gray eyes, and brown hair of the Starks. Arya Stark, her niece, is noted to look almost exactly like Lyanna. Ned explicitly stated that he saw much of Lyanna's fiery spirit in his daughter. At the Harrenhal tourney, 14-year-old Lyanna snuck off on her own adventure. According to legend, a mystery knight called the Knight of the Laughing Tree defeated several squires who were bullying young Howland Reed. Many suspect the knight was Lyanna. After Rhaegar won the tourney's final joust, he shocked all present by crowning Lyanna Queen of Love and Beauty, laying a garland of blue winter roses in her lap, in place of his own wife, Princess Elia Martell. That public gesture had devastating consequences. Lyanna was betrothed to Robert Baratheon, who loved her madly. Lyanna had misgivings. She told Ned that Robert would never keep to one bed. His love wouldn't stop him from being unfaithful, and she was right. Shortly after the tourney, Rhaegar and Lyanna encountered each other again under mysterious circumstances. In 282 AC, Rhaegar took Lyanna south, and they vanished together. Robert's rebellion erupted over Lyanna's disappearance, as her brothers and betrothed raised hell to get her back. The war raged for roughly a year. Rhaegar was ultimately killed by Robert on the Trident, but Lyanna did not live to see the war's end. In the final days of the rebellion, after King's Landing fell, Ned rode to the Tower of Joy to rescue his sister. There he found Lyanna dying in a bed of blood. She had just given birth, and the childbirth left her gravely wounded. Lyanna was feverish and weak, but relieved to see her brother. She slipped away in Ned's arms. She was only 16 years old. The promise Lyanna extracted from Ned would haunt him for the rest of his days. Eddard Stark. Known as Ned, and born in 263 AC, he was the second son of Rickard, a quiet, stalwart man who became the reluctant hero of a generation. When his father and elder brother were brutally killed by the Mad King in 282 AC, young Ned found himself Lord of Winterfell and head of House Stark at age 19. With his sister Lyanna presumed captive and his family slain, Ned joined Robert's rebellion. He raised the North in open revolt, and fought the year-long war that toppled the Targaryen dynasty. he returned home from war with a newborn baby, Lyanna's son, hidden as his bastard, and a heart weighed down by grief and secrets. Ned married Catelyn during the rebellion, cementing the Stark-Tully alliance and fulfilling Brandon's betrothal in his slain brother's stead. This political union grew into a loving marriage in time. Ned proved to be a just and dutiful warden of the North. He was known for his unwavering honor and honesty. He raised 5 children with Catelyn: Robb, Sansa, Arya, Bran, Rickon. He also raised his bastard son, Jon Snow, alongside them, insisting Jon was his blood even as it caused friction with Catelyn. To his people, Ned was a lord who dispensed the king's justice personally, wielding the great sword Ice to behead condemned men himself. As Ned taught his sons, the man who passes the sentence should swing the sword. If you want to learn more about Ice, be sure to check out our video on every Valyrian steel sword. In 298 AC, Ned Stark's quiet life was upended when his old friend King Robert Baratheon came to Winterfell and named him Hand of the King, the second most powerful post in the realm. Ned reluctantly agreed, leaving Winterfell behind to go south with the king. In King's Landing, Ned found a viper's nest of intrigue at Robert's court. He tried to navigate it honorably while investigating the suspicious death of the previous hand, Jon Arryn. Ned discovered that Queen Cersei Lannister's children were not Robert's true heirs. This knowledge put Ned in mortal danger. After Robert was killed in a hunting accident, Ned attempted to stop Cersei's son Joffrey from taking the throne. But Ned's honesty and honor proved his undoing. He was betrayed by Peter Baelish, known as Littlefinger, arrested for treason, and forced to make a false confession to save his daughters Sansa and Arya. Despite making an agreement that his life would be spared and that he be sent to the Wall, the new teen King Joffrey ordered Lord Eddard Stark's execution. In one stroke, he was beheaded in front of the shocked crowd, including his daughters. The date was 299 AC. Ned was about 35 years old. Catelyn Stark was the wife of Ned and a devoted mother. Born in 264 AC to Lord Hoster Tully, Catelyn was originally betrothed to Brandon Stark. When Ned returned from war with Jon Snow, Catelyn could never fully forgive the apparent indiscretion. Nonetheless, their marriage grew strong over 15 years. After Ned's execution, Catelyn became one of son Robb's closest advisors. She released Jaime Lannister from captivity, attempting to trade him for her daughters. During the Red Wedding, Catelyn, hysterical with grief at the events unfolding, seized Walder Frey's grandson and cut his throat. Then Catelyn's own throat was cut. Her legacy lived on in her daughters and in Brienne of Tarth. Robb Stark, Ned and Catelyn's firstborn son, a true northern lord in the making, thrust into war far too young. Born in 283 AC at the end of Robert's rebellion, Robb was raised at Winterfell alongside his siblings and Jon Snow, his bastard half-brother and best friend. Robb had the Tully coloring of his mother, blue eyes and auburn hair, but in character he took after Ned, dutiful, just, and fiercely protective of his family. When word came north of Ned's arrest, Robb did not hesitate. He called the northern bannermen to war. Though only a boy to some, Robb Stark already commanded respect as a natural leader. With his direwolf Grey Wind at his side, Robb marched south with his banners flying the direwolf of Stark. His youth and ferocity earned him the nickname the Young Wolf. During the War of the Five Kings, Robb proved himself a brilliant commander. He won a great victory at the Whispering Wood, where he outfoxed Jaime Lannister's forces and captured Jaime in a night ambush. He won battle after battle against the Lannisters in the Riverlands. His bannermen, impressed by his victories and galvanized by Ned's unjust death, hailed Robb as the new king in the north, crowning him with his ancestor's title in late 299 AC. Robb, no more than 20, became the first king in the north for 3 centuries. Yet Robb also inherits Ned's fatal flaw of honorable naivety in the face of deceit. Grieving and injured after learning of Winterfell's fall, Robb finds comfort with Talisa Maguire, or Lady Jane Westerling in the books, and impulsively marries her for love, thus spurning House Frey by reneging on his marriage pact with them. This cost him dearly. In 299 AC, Robb is murdered in the dining hall by Roose Bolton. The Freys then mutilated Robb's corpse, infamously sewing Grey Wind's direwolf head onto Robb's decapitated body in mockery of the king in the north. Robb Stark died a very young man. Sansa Stark. Sansa is the eldest daughter, a lady who grew from a naive girl into a wise ruler. Born in 286 AC, Sansa inherited her mother's Tully beauty. Young Sansa loved lemon cakes and tales of gallant knights. At 11, she journeyed south, betrothed to Prince Joffrey Baratheon. But after witnessing her father's execution, Sansa's dreams turned to ashes. Throughout the War of the Five Kings, Sansa endures torment over and over again. In Season 4, Peter Littlefinger Baelish orchestrates her escape and spirits Sansa to the Vale. Baelish marries Sansa to Ramsay Bolton, where she suffers brutal abuse. Sansa survives and escapes with Theon Greyjoy. She reunites with Jon Snow and helps defeat Ramsay at the Battle of the Bastards. Sansa personally feeds Ramsay to his hounds. By the final season, Sansa reclaims Winterfell. After Daenerys' death, Sansa insists the North will no longer be subject to Southern kings. She learned the Game of Thrones under Cersei, Tyrion, Littlefinger, and Ramsay, watching up close and remembering every lesson. But unlike them, Sansa governs through caution, memory, and an instinct to protect her people. In the show's finale, Sansa is crowned Queen in the North, an independent kingdom once again after centuries of southern subjugation. Arya Stark is a force of nature, bold, resourceful, and deadly. More than her siblings, she inherited the wild wolf blood of her Aunt Lyanna. From a young age, Arya rejected ladylike pursuits, preferring swordplay, as seen in Season 1. In King's Landing, Arya learned water dancing from Syrio Forel with her thin sword, Needle, a gift from Jon Snow. After her father was arrested, Arya witnessed his execution, an event that set her on a blood-stained path. Yoren of the Night's Watch smuggled Arya out of the capital, disguising her as a boy. All the while, she repeated the names of those she wanted to kill like a prayer. Arya bought passage to Braavos by presenting the Braavosi iron coin and uttering Valar Morghulis to the House of Black and White. Arya trained as a deadly assassin but ultimately refused to surrender her identity. "A girl is Arya Stark of Winterfell, and I'm going home," she declares. She returns to Westeros with lethal skills. She infiltrates the twins, kills Walder Frey's sons, serves Walder a pie baked from their flesh, and slits his throat. She uses Walder's face to poison all the Frey men, wiping out the male line. During the Battle of Winterfell, Arya ambushes the Night King, driving her Valyrian steel dagger into his heart, shattering him and his army of the dead. Arya becomes the hero of the Long Night. In the series finale, Arya sets sail west of Westeros, just to see what's west of Westeros, the lone wolf embarking on a new journey. Bran Stark. Perhaps the most extraordinary fate of all the Starks belongs to Bran. Once a gentle boy who loved to climb and dreamed of becoming a knight, Bran's life was irrevocably changed at just 7 years old when Jaime Lannister pushed him from a tower. The fall shattered his spine and stole his ability to walk. As Bran lay unconscious, something awakened. His third eye began to open. He discovered he could see through the eyes of his direwolf, Summer, and, guided by Mira Reed and Jojen Reed, came to understand that he possessed the ancient powers of the Greenseers. After the sack of Winterfell, Bran journeyed beyond the Wall. He learned greensight and skin-changing, witnessing long-buried moments of history and surrendering his former self. In time, Bran inherited the mantle of the Three-Eyed Raven, a living memory of the world. By Season 7, he reunites with his sisters, though he makes clear that he is no longer truly Bran Stark. Using his vast knowledge, he exposes Baelish's betrayals and confirms Jon's true parentage. After the defeat of the White Walkers and the fall of Daenerys, Tyrion Lannister nominates Bran as king. His reasoning is simple. Bran does not desire power, yet possesses the memory of all Westeros. The lords agree, and the boy who once dreamed of knighthood is crowned King Bran the Broken, ruler of the Six Kingdoms. Rickon Stark. The youngest child of Ned and Catelyn, Rickon was no older than 5 when the War of the Five Kings began. When Theon seized Winterfell, Rickon and Bran hid in the crypts. After the fall of Winterfell, Asha the Wildling woman took Rickon with her. Rickon was eventually captured and delivered to Ramsay Bolton. Ramsay kills Rickon's direwolf Shaggy Dog and uses Rickon during the Battle of the Bastards. Ramsay lets Rickon run across the battlefield toward Jon, only to shoot the boy through the heart with an arrow. Rickon died at 12 years old. Jon Snow. Believed to be Ned Stark's bastard son, he is in truth Aegon Targaryen, the son of Lyanna and Prince Rhaegar Targaryen. Jon embodies the Song of Ice and Fire, Stark blood and Targaryen blood united. Knowing he could never inherit as a bastard, Jon joined the Night's Watch at age 14. At Castle Black, Jon rose as a leader. He saved Lord Commander Jorah Mormont from a white attack and earned the Valyrian sword Longclaw. He lived among the wildlings and fell in love with Ygritte. After helping repel the wildling invasion, Jon was elected the 998th Lord Commander. Jon allied with the wildlings against the White Walkers. This led to mutiny. His brothers stabbed Jon to death at Castle Black. The Red Priestess Melisandre resurrected him. Jon rose from the dead, freed from his vows. He reunited with Sansa and liberated Winterfell from the Boltons at the Battle of the Bastards. The Northern Lords acclaimed Jon Snow as the new king in the North, or sometimes as the White Wolf. Jon forged an alliance with Daenerys Targaryen, bending the knee for help against the Night King. The two fell in love. Together they fought at the Battle of Winterfell, but when Daenerys burned King's Landing, slaughtering thousands, Jon was horrified. In the throne room, Jon drove a dagger into her heart, killing the woman he loved to save the realm. Jon was sent back to the Night's Watch. In the final scene, he leads the wildlings beyond the wall with his direwolf ghost by his side, a free man among free folk. That's it for our guide to every Stark. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and check out our deep dive into the Lannisters.